Your brain's peak performance window is about 4 hours long. If you're like most people, you spend 3 of those hours on email and meetings. By the end of this video, you will understand the invisible system that tricks you into wasting your best mental energy on your lowest value work. And chances are, that system is running right now, turning your ambition into a checklist of chores while you think you're being productive. We talk a lot about being a morning person or a night owl. We categorize ourselves as larks who rise with the sun, or owls who do their best work long after dusk. This framework of chronotypes is a useful starting point. It acknowledges a fundamental truth. All hours are not created equal. There is a tide to your energy, a rhythm that dictates when you are sharpest and when you are dull. The issue is that this simple binary view barely scratches the surface. It's like describing the ocean by only mentioning high tide and low tide. The real story is in the currents underneath. Your cognitive performance operates on a much smaller, more immediate cycle. It's called the ultradian rhythm. Throughout your day, your brain moves through 90-minute cycles of high-frequency brainwave activity, followed by a 20-minute period of lower-frequency activity. During that 90-minute peak, your focus is heightened. Your problem-solving abilities are accelerated. Your mind can hold complex ideas without splintering. This is your biological prime time. This is the window where true breakthroughs happen. Then, for about 20 minutes, your brain needs to consolidate, to recover. You feel a bit foggy, a little restless. You get the urge to stretch, to get a coffee, to look out the window. That's the trough. This cycle repeats all day long for larks and owls alike. The most important work of your life is done inside these 90-minute bursts. The tragedy is that we are taught to ignore their arrival. Your body sends clear signals when one of these peak windows is opening. You have just been trained to misinterpret them. But what are those signals, and how have we learned to squander them so consistently? The signal is a sudden feeling of mental clarity, a sense of quiet in your head, an internal restlessness that isn't anxiety, but an eagerness for a genuine challenge. Your brain is warmed up, flooded with the optimal neurochemistry for difficult work, and it is asking for a problem worthy of its capacity. And what do we do when this feeling arrives? We decide it's the perfect time to clear the decks. We open our email inbox, we look at our to-do list, and pick off the easiest, most satisfyingly small items. We use a Formula One engine to run errands. This is the first and most critical mistake, applying high-grade cognitive fuel to low-value tasks. The reason is a powerful cognitive mechanism called completion bias. Your brain loves to finish things. Every time you check an item off a list, reply to an email, or complete a small chore, your brain releases a small pulse of dopamine. It's a reward, a little chemical signal that says, "Good job. That was progress." This feels fantastic. It feels like you're building momentum. So you do it again, you answer another email, you schedule another meeting, you get another hit. Soon, you've built a powerful feedback loop. You've spent the first 90 minutes of your peak cognitive window getting addicted to the feeling of being busy. You have a string of small, hollow victories while the truly important work sits untouched. That deep, complex, ambiguous project that holds your entire career's trajectory within it. It offered no immediate dopamine hit. It offered only a challenge. Your brain, seeking the path of least resistance and greatest immediate reward, chose the checklist. This addiction to small, easy wins does more than just misallocate your time. It actively damages your ability to perform deep work later. It physically remodels your brain's capacity for sustained focus. How is that possible? Every time you glance at an email, check a social media notification, or switch between tasks, your mind pays a price. Researchers call it attention residue. A part of your cognitive bandwidth remains stuck on the previous task. Imagine trying to have a deep conversation with someone while a part of your mind is still thinking about the email you just read. You're present, but you're also not. A landmark study from the University of California, Irvine, put a number on this. It can take an average of 23 minutes and 15 seconds to fully regain your original depth of focus after a single minor interruption. Think about what that means for your peak 90-minute window. You start your day feeling clear and ready. You decide to just check emails for 5 minutes. The first email reminds you of a deadline. The second contains a passive-aggressive question from a colleague. The third is a newsletter. You close the inbox. Now you turn to your most important task. But your brain isn't fully there. Part of it is stuck back in the inbox, mulling over the deadline, composing a reply to your colleague. You've introduced cognitive friction before you've even begun. The first 23 minutes of your peak window are now spent just trying to get back to where you started. And then another notification pops up. Another email comes in. We spend our most valuable mental hours in a state of constant, low-grade distraction. We are practicing context switching. We are training our brains to prefer shallow, reactive work over deep, proactive work. The brain, being a ruthlessly efficient organ, simply gets better at what it repeatedly does. You've felt this. That feeling at 3 in the afternoon when you finally have a quiet moment to tackle the big project, and your mind feels like a browser with 50 tabs open. It feels frazzled, unable to load any single thought completely. That is the physical result of attention residue. It's the ghost of 1,000 tiny interruptions. There's an even deeper, more personal reason we choose this state of productive distraction. It's a sophisticated defense mechanism shielding us from a fear that feels more threatening than mere failure. We are afraid of the blank page. We are terrified of the ambiguity that lies at the heart of our most important work. Writing the first chapter of the book, creating the new business strategy, solving a truly novel engineering problem. These tasks have no clear step-by-step instructions. They require you to sit with uncertainty, to tolerate the discomfort of not knowing. Your ego is on the line. If you try and fail, that feels personal. Answering an email is certain. The process is defined: open, read, type, send. The outcome is a clean inbox. It's safe. It carries zero existential risk. So, you engage in what's known as productive procrastination. You do real, legitimate work, just not the work that matters most. You organize your entire digital filing system. Instead of starting the difficult proposal, you spend hours researching productivity techniques instead of doing the actual work. It feels productive, it looks productive, but it's a form of hiding. Critics will correctly point out that responding to emails and attending meetings is a mandatory part of most jobs. And they're right. The work is unavoidable. The variable you control is timing. Choosing to do this reactive work during your biological prime time is an act of profound self-sabotage. It is like paying for your weekly groceries with your retirement savings. The money is real, the purchase is valid, but you are using a precious, finite resource on something that could have been handled with pocket change. You are using your peak creativity, your sharpest problem-solving skills on tasks that could be done on autopilot later in the day, when your energy is lower. The entire structure of the modern workplace is an engine for generating this kind of shallow, urgent work. It's a constant stream of manufactured emergencies. But there's a simple audit you can perform, an exercise that will reveal this entire trap in stark, undeniable numbers. For 1 week, keep a simple log. Every hour, write down the 1 or 2 main things you worked on. Be honest. At the end of the week, take your log and categorize every single entry using a simple tool, the Eisenhower matrix. The matrix divides tasks into 4 quadrants based on 2 axes, importance and urgency. Quadrant 1 is urgent and important. Crises, deadlines, real problems. Quadrant 2 is not urgent but important. Strategic planning, skill development, relationship building, deep creative work. Quadrant 3 is urgent but not important. Most emails, many meetings, other people's minor issues. Quadrant 4 is not urgent and not important. Busy work, distractions. When you look at your log through this lens, a pattern will emerge. Most of your time, especially your morning hours, is likely spent in quadrants 1, and 3. Our brains are wired with an urgency bias. A notification feels urgent. A ringing phone feels urgent. A colleague standing at your desk feels urgent. These things demand immediate attention. Quadrant 2, where your most valuable work resides, has no such alarm system. It never shouts. It only waits. Strategic thinking rarely feels urgent. Building a new skill is a long-term project. The fallacy is believing we can simply choose to spend more time in Quadrant 2. We can't. Urgency possesses a gravitational pull. It will always drag you out of deep work unless you build a structure to protect it. That structure is time blocking. You must schedule your Quadrant 2 work as a non-negotiable appointment in your calendar, specifically during your identified biological prime time. It becomes a meeting with your own future, and you must be ruthless in defending it. Yet, even with this system in place, a final cognitive distortion can derail the whole process. It's a bias that makes us fundamentally misjudge our most important work, causing us to avoid it before we even start. The bias is called the planning fallacy, a term first identified by psychologists Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky. It describes our universal tendency to underestimate the time, cost, and risk of future actions, even when our past experience tells a different story. When you plan a major project, you naturally visualize the path to completion. You see yourself writing the code, drafting the report, building the presentation. You mentally chart the most direct route. What you fail to account for are the inevitable complications, the unexpected bug that takes a day to fix, the sudden bout of writer's block, the research that leads to a dead end, the meeting that gets canceled, throwing off your timeline. This systematic optimism makes your most important tasks seem colossal and intimidating when you actually sit down to begin. Write the quarterly report looms as a single, monstrous entity. The perceived effort is huge and the reward is distant. So what do? You retreat to the safety of Quadrant 3. You answer 10 emails. Why? Because that feels like 10 distinct, measurable, and immediate wins. The quarterly report feels like one potential, distant, and ego-threatening failure. This reveals the core asymmetry of modern work. Shallow tasks offer a predictable, immediate, but small reward. Deep work offers an uncertain, delayed, but exponentially larger reward. Our brains, which evolved to prioritize short-term survival and immediate feedback, will choose the small, certain win almost every time. This is the final layer of the trap. You are biologically wired for the dopamine of small completions, psychologically conditioned to fear ambiguity, and cognitively biased to miscalculate the effort required for deep work. This is the architecture of wasted potential. The entire system is designed to keep you busy with things that feel productive. It's a quiet, insidious form of self-sabotage that masquerades as diligence. It's why you can have a day filled with back-to-back tasks, feeling completely exhausted by the end, yet have a nagging sense that you made no real progress on the things that truly matter. Your energy was spent. It just wasn't invested. Your productivity is a measure of what you accomplish when you have the mental capital to do your best work. It is an empty metric otherwise. The war for your career, for your creative output, for your most significant contributions is won or lost in the first 90-minute cycle of your cognitive peak. That is the only territory that truly matters. Those hours you spend on email are an investment. You are actively investing your most precious neurological resources into becoming a person who is exceptionally good at clearing an inbox. This comes at the direct and unavoidable cost of becoming excellent at solving complex problems, creating original work, or devising long-term strategy. The ballot box of your identity is open during those hours. Every shallow task you complete is a vote for a reactive version of yourself. The most effective people are the ones who are most ruthless about protecting their peak hours from their own good intentions. They build a wall around that time, not just to keep others out, but to keep their own worst impulses from creeping in. The impulse to check, the impulse to clear the decks, the impulse to choose the comfort of the checklist over the challenge of the void. The question is, What are you protecting your prime time from? And this same architecture of cognitive budgeting explains why our decision-making capacity collapses as the day wears on. A process known as decision fatigue, which is an entirely different kind of quiet sabotage.